The twin suns of New Terra painted the sky orange as June walked back toward Haven Ridge. His boots crunched on the dry grass that covered the hills around the settlement. The day patrol had been quiet. Too quiet, maybe. But that was how he liked it. June carried his plasma rifle across his shoulders. The weapon was heavy, but he was used to it. He had been a colonial defense warrior for 3 years now. Before that, he lived on Earth in the crowded cities. Here on New Terra, everything was different. The air was clean. The horizon went on forever. And sometimes alien bugs tried to eat you. He smiled at that thought. The other settlers called the Vextar bugs, but they were not really insects. They just looked like giant ants with too many teeth. June had fought them before. They were fast and mean, but not very smart. At least that was what everyone thought. The settlement came into view as June walked over the last hill. Haven Ridge sat in a valley between two mountains. Small houses dotted the area around a central town square. Gardens grew between the buildings. Children played in the streets. It looked peaceful. June was almost at the town edge when he heard the sound. Something crashing through the trees to his left. He stopped walking and raised his rifle. The sound got louder. Branches broke. Leaves rustled. Then a small figure burst out of the forest. It was a little girl. She ran as fast as her short legs could carry her. Her dark hair flew behind her like a banner. Her clothes were torn in many places. Dirt covered her face and arms. She looked terrified. The girl saw June and ran straight toward him. She did not slow down. Instead, she crashed right into his legs and grabbed onto his combat vest with both hands. "Please help me," she said between gasps for air. "You have to save Mama." June lowered his rifle and knelt down. The girl was maybe 8 years old. He recognized her now. This was Mina. Her mother, Hannah, worked at the research station 5 kilometers north of town. Hannah studied the plants and animals that lived on New Terra. "Slow down," June said in a gentle voice. "What happened?" "Where is your mother?" Mina looked up at him with wide eyes. Tears ran down her dirty cheeks. "The bug things came. They broke everything. They took Mama away." June felt ice in his stomach. The Vextar had attacked the research station. But why? They usually just killed humans they found. They did not take prisoners. "Tell me exactly what happened," June said.
He kept his voice calm even though his heart was beating fast. Mina wiped her nose on her sleeve.
"Mama and I were working in the lab. She was showing me how to look at flower seeds under the microscope. Then we heard loud noises outside." The girl took a shaky breath. "Mama told me to hide in the equipment locker. She said not to come out no matter what I heard. So I hid." "Good girl," June said. "What happened next?" The front door exploded. These big bug things came inside. They had black shells and lots of legs. And their teeth. Mina shuddered. They made clicking sounds when they talked to each other. June nodded. That sounded like Vextar warriors. But Vextar did not usually work together in groups. They were supposed to be simple hunters. "They broke all the computers and equipment," Mina continued. "But they did not kill Mama. They wrapped her up in some kind of sticky web stuff. Then they carried her away toward the mountains." "How long ago was this?" June asked. "Maybe 2 hours. I waited in the locker until everything got quiet. Then I ran here as fast as I could." June stood up and activated his communication device. He tried to contact the base commander, Tay. Static filled his earpiece. He tried again. More static. "The communications are being jammed," he said to himself. Mina grabbed his hand. "You can find her, right? You can save Mama?" June looked down at the little girl. Her eyes were full of hope and trust. She believed he could do anything. That was a heavy responsibility. The smart thing would be to take Mina back to town. Wait for the communication jam to clear. Get backup from the other warriors. Plan a proper rescue mission. But that would take hours. Maybe days. And Hannah might not have that much time. June had fought the Vextar before. He knew their patterns. They liked to hunt alone or in pairs. A group big enough to attack a research station was unusual. Something had changed. "The caves," June said. "You said they went toward the mountains?" Mina nodded quickly. "Mama showed me the old maps. There are lots of caves up there. She said the bug things might live in them." June made his decision. He could not abandon Hannah. And he could not leave this brave little girl without her mother. "I am going to get your mother back," he told Mina. "But I need your help." "Me?" Mina looked surprised. "You know where the research station is. You know the area around it. And you know what your mother was working on." June shouldered his rifle. That might be important. But I am just a kid. June knelt down again so they were at the same eye level. On Earth, I lived in a city with 20 million people. Everyone there thought humans were weak compared to other species in space. They said we could not survive on colony worlds. He pointed toward the settlement. But look around. We built a town here. We grow food. We raise families. We defend ourselves against aliens that want to kill us. Do you know why? Mina shook her head. Because humans do not give up. When something threatens the people we care about, we fight. No matter how big the enemy is. No matter how scared we are. June smiled at her. Your mother did not give up when the Vextar came. She made sure you were safe first, and you did not give up either. You ran through the forest to find help. So I can help save Mama. You already are helping. You brought me the information I needed. Now we go get her back. Mina wiped away her tears. Her face became determined. Okay, let's go save Mama. June stood up and checked his equipment. Rifle charged, ammunition full, medical kit ready, water and food for at least a day. They started walking toward the research station. The orange sky was getting darker as the sun set. Soon it would be night. That might be good, June thought. Humans could see better in low light than most aliens. It would give them an advantage. As they walked, Mina told him more about what her mother had been studying. Plants that grew in strange patterns near the caves. Animals that seemed to be changing their behavior. Radio signals coming from deep underground. June listened carefully. Something big was happening on New Terra. Something the colonial government did not know about yet, and Hana had discovered it. Now he understood why the Vextar had taken her alive. They wanted to know what she knew. The question was, would June and Mina reach her before it was too late? The research station looked like a bomb had hit it. June crouched behind a fallen tree and studied the damage through his rifle scope. Broken glass covered the ground. The front door hung sideways on twisted metal hinges. Equipment lay scattered everywhere. Stay down, June whispered to Mina. The girl was pressed close beside him, trying to see her old home. They really broke everything, Mina said sadly. June moved the scope slowly across the building. No movement. No heat signatures on his thermal scanner. Whatever had attacked this place was long gone. Wait here, he told Mina. I need to look inside. I want to come with you. Too dangerous. If something happens to me, you run back to town. Understand? Mina nodded, but she did not look happy about it. June left his heavy pack with the girl and moved toward the station. He kept his rifle ready. His boots made no sound on the soft ground. 3 years of fighting on New Terra had taught him how to move quietly. The inside of the station was worse than the outside. Computer screens lay smashed on the floor. Tables were overturned. Papers were scattered everywhere. But something was strange about the destruction. June knelt and examined the damage more carefully. The computers had not been randomly destroyed. Someone had specifically targeted the memory cores and data storage units. The communication equipment was completely gone. Even the backup radio was missing. This was not random violence. This was planned. He moved through the other rooms. In the lab where Mina had hidden, he found scorch marks on the walls. Not from human weapons. These burns came from some kind of energy discharge. The Vextar he had fought before only used claws and teeth. When had they learned to use advanced technology? June found the equipment locker where Mina had waited. The metal door was dented but still closed. The girl had been smart to hide there. And lucky the Vextar had not found her. Outside the station, drag marks led away toward the mountain. June followed them carefully. The tracks were deep and wide. Whatever had made them was heavy. And there were many sets of tracks. At least 6 different creatures had been here. The trail led up a steep path into the rocky hills. June had patrolled this area before, but never gone very far into the mountains. The caves up there were supposed to be empty. Just holes in the rock where nothing lived. He went back to get Mina. Did you find anything? She asked as soon as she saw him. Your mother was definitely taken toward the mountains. But Mina, there were a lot of them. More Vextar than I've ever seen working together. Mama always said they were getting smarter. She found evidence they were changing. June looked at the girl with new interest. What kind of evidence? She found old Vextar shells near the caves, but they were different from the normal ones, bigger, and they had marks on them like writing. This was news to June. The colonial report said Vextar were simple predators. They hunted alone and had no written language. If that was wrong, then everything else might be wrong too. "Show me the path your mother used to reach the caves," he said. They started climbing into the mountains. Mina knew the way well. She pointed out landmarks her mother had shown her. A rock that looked like a bird, a tree growing sideways out of a cliff, a stream that ran red from iron minerals. As they climbed higher, June noticed something that made his skin crawl. The normal sounds of the forest were gone. No birds singing, no small animals moving in the bushes. Even the insects were quiet. "Something is wrong here," he said. "Mama noticed that too. She said the animals were afraid to come up here anymore." They reached a ridge that looked down into a deep valley. June pulled out his binoculars and studied the area below. What he saw made him forget to breathe. The valley was full of caves, just like Mina had said. But these were not natural caves anymore. The Vextar had been busy. Metal structures connected the cave entrances. Antenna arrays pointed toward the sky. Lights moved back and forth in organized patterns. "This is not a nest," June whispered. "This is a base." He counted at least 20 different cave entrances. All of them showed signs of construction and modification. This complex was huge. It must have taken months to build. "How long has your mother been studying this area?" he asked. "Since we arrived on New Terra, about 6 months. 6 months. The Vextar had been building this place right under their noses for 6 months. And no one in the colonial government knew about it. June switched his binoculars to thermal mode. Heat signatures appeared all through the complex. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All moving with purpose and organization. But there were other heat signatures too. Smaller ones. "Different temperature patterns, Mina," he said quietly. "I think I found your mother. And she is not alone." The girl grabbed his arm. "Where?" June pointed to a cave entrance near the center of the complex. "There. I count at least 8 human-sized heat signatures in that area. The Vextar have been collecting people. Why would they do that?" That was a very good question. In all his battles with the Vextar, they had never taken prisoners. They killed humans or they ignored them. They did not capture them and keep them alive. Something had changed. Something big. June studied the complex more carefully. Guard posts were positioned around the entrances. Patrol routes followed regular patterns. The whole base was organized like a military installation. "We need to get closer," he said. "I have to see what they are doing in there." "Is it safe?" "No, but your mother and those other people are counting on us." They moved down into the valley, staying hidden behind rocks and dead trees. June had memorized the guard patrol times. They would have maybe 10 minutes to get close before the next patrol came by. As they got nearer to the caves, June could hear sounds from inside. Not the clicking noises that Vextar normally made. These were different sounds. Electronic beeps, humming machinery, and something else that made his blood run cold. Human voices. Screaming. "Mama," Mina whispered. June put his hand on her shoulder. "We will get her out. All of them. But first I need to understand what we are dealing with." They crept closer to the main cave entrance. Through a gap in the metal construction, June could see inside. What he saw there changed everything he thought he knew about the Vextar. The cave was full of advanced technology. Computer systems that looked more sophisticated than anything the human colony had. Laboratory equipment that belonged in a major research facility, and in the center of it all, connected to the machines by cables and wires, were the human prisoners. Including Hana, June realized with growing horror that this was not just a Vextar base. It was a research facility, and the humans were not prisoners, they were test subjects. "We have to go," he told Mina. "Right now. But Mama is right there. If we try to rescue her now, we will all die, and then no one will know about this place." June took one last look at the terrible scene inside the cave. "We need help. Lots of help." But as they turned to leave, June heard the sound he had been dreading. The clicking of Vextar voices. Very close. And getting closer. The patrol was coming back early. June grabbed Mina and pulled her behind a large boulder just as 3 Vextar warriors came around the corner. The creatures were bigger than any he had seen before. Their black shells gleamed in the dim light from the caves. Sharp claws scraped against the rocky ground as they walked. But these Vextar were different in another way too. They carried weapons. Not crude clubs or spears, but advanced energy rifles that hummed with power. June held his breath and kept Mina pressed close against the rock. The patrol stopped just meters away from their hiding spot. The Vextar made clicking sounds to each other. Their language was more complex than June remembered. It almost sounded like they were having a real conversation. After what felt like hours, the patrol moved on. June waited until their footsteps faded before he dared to move. That was close, Mina whispered. Too close. We need to find another way into the complex. They moved carefully around the edge of the valley, looking for a less guarded entrance. June used his binoculars to study the cave system. The whole place was much larger than it had appeared from above. Tunnels connected dozens of caves. Some passages went deep into the mountain. There, Mina pointed to a small opening high up on the cliff face. Mama showed me that cave once. She said it connected to the others inside. June looked where she was pointing. The cave entrance was maybe 30 meters up a steep rock wall. It would be a dangerous climb, but there were no guards visible. Can you climb that? He asked. Mama taught me how to rock climb. I can do it. They made their way to the base of the cliff. Up close, the rock looked even more challenging. But Mina was right. There were enough handholds and ledges to make the climb possible. June went first, testing each grip before trusting it with his weight. His rifle made the climb harder, but he could not leave it behind. Behind him, Mina climbed with the easy confidence of a child who had no fear of falling. They reached the cave entrance as the last light faded from the sky. The opening was small but big enough for them to squeeze through. June pulled out a small flashlight and pointed it into the darkness. The cave tunnel stretched ahead of them, carved smooth by thousands of years of water flow. But recent scratches on the walls showed that the Vextar used this passage regularly. Stay close, June whispered. And if I tell you to run, you run. No questions. They moved into the mountain. The tunnel sloped downward, taking them deeper underground. After 10 minutes of walking, they began to hear sounds from ahead. Machinery humming, electronic beeps, and something else that made June's stomach twist with worry. Human voices crying out in pain. The tunnel opened into a larger cave that had been completely transformed. Banks of computers lined the walls. Strange machines filled the center of the space. Cables and wires ran everywhere like the web of a giant spider, and throughout it all, the Vextar moved with purpose and intelligence. June watched in amazement as the creatures operated advanced equipment. Their clawed hands moved over control panels with practiced skill. They read data from screens and made careful adjustments to the machines. They are not just smart, he whispered to himself. They are scientists. In the center of the cave, raised platforms held the human prisoners. June counted 12 people, all connected to the alien machines by thin cables attached to their heads. Most of them were unconscious, but a few were awake and aware of what was happening to them. One of those awake prisoners was Hannah. Mina saw her mother at the same time June did. The girl started to move toward the platforms, but June caught her arm. Not yet, he said quietly. We need to understand what they are doing first. A large Vextar approached Hannah's platform. This creature was different from the others. Its shell was darker and covered with strange symbols. When it spoke, the other Vextar stopped their work to listen. Subject 7 shows continued resistance to the neural interface, the creature said in perfect human language. June nearly dropped his flashlight. The Vextar could speak like humans. Her mind patterns remain chaotic and unpredictable, the creature continued. She has successfully corrupted 3 data streams and introduced false information into our research. Another Vextar approached. This one was smaller but carried itself with obvious authority. Commander Kresh, perhaps we should increase the neural pressure. No, scientist Nolthak. The human brain is more fragile than we estimated. We have already lost 2 subjects to excessive pressure. June listened with growing horror as the aliens discussed their experiments. They were trying to copy human thoughts and memories. They wanted to understand how human minds worked. The preliminary data is troubling, Nolthak continued. Human adaptability appears to be linked to their emotional responses. When we remove the emotions, the adaptability disappears. Explain, Kresh ordered. Subject 7, the scientist, shows remarkable problem-solving abilities even while connected to our systems. But these abilities seem to come from her concern for the other subjects. When we isolated her emotionally, her performance dropped significantly. Kresh moved closer to Hannah's platform. This female has been particularly difficult. She has found ways to sabotage our equipment using only her thoughts. June saw Hannah open her eyes and look directly at the alien commander. Even connected to the horrible machines, she showed no fear. Your research is flawed, Hana said in a weak but determined voice. You can copy our memories, but you cannot copy what makes us human. We shall see, Kresh replied. Prepare Subject 7 for deep extraction. If she will not cooperate, we will take what we need by force. Commander, Nulthak said carefully. Deep extraction will likely kill her. We should preserve her for further study. Our homeworlds are dying, scientist. We need results, not prisoners. Begin the procedure. Mina made a small sound of distress. June quickly covered her mouth with his hand, but it was too late. One of the Vextar workers had heard them. The creature turned toward their hiding spot and raised its weapon. Intruders in Tunnel 7, it called out. Suddenly the cave filled with activity. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed from the ceiling. Vextar soldiers poured in from other tunnels. Run, June told Mina. But there was nowhere to go. They were trapped in the cave with a dozen armed aliens between them and the exit. June stepped out from behind the rocks with his rifle raised. Let the prisoners go, he shouted. Kresh looked at him with what might have been amusement. One human warrior thinks he can fight us all? I am not alone, June said, hoping his voice sounded more confident than he felt. Indeed. You brought a small female child to help you. How very human. Kresh gestured to his soldiers. Capture them both. More test subjects will be useful. The Vextar soldiers moved forward. June knew he could not fight them all, but he had learned something important. The aliens were not just studying humans to satisfy their curiosity. They were trying to save their dying race by stealing human abilities. And Hana had been fighting them the whole time, even while connected to their machines. As the aliens closed in, June made a desperate decision. Instead of fighting, he called out to all the human prisoners. Remember who you are, he shouted. Remember why we left Earth. Remember why we fight. On her platform, Hana smiled despite the cables attached to her head. And all around the cave, the alien machines started sparking and smoking as the human prisoners began to fight back with their minds. Sparks flew from the alien machines as the human prisoners fought back with their thoughts. The neural interfaces that had been stealing their memories began to overload. Red warning lights flashed throughout the cave. What is happening? Kresh roared at his scientist. Nulthak frantically worked at a control panel. The humans are creating feedback loops in the system. Their brain patterns are destabilizing our equipment. June saw his chance. While the Vextar were distracted by their failing machines, he grabbed Mina's hand and dove behind a bank of computers. The crystal formations, Mina whispered urgently. Mama told me about them. She said they make electronic signals stronger. June looked where the girl was pointing. Throughout the cave, natural crystal formations grew from the walls and ceiling. The Vextar had built their equipment around these crystals, probably using them to boost their systems. Your mother is brilliant, June said. If the crystals make signals stronger, then Hana has been using them to amplify her resistance. On her platform, Hana had her eyes closed in concentration. Sweat ran down her face as she fought against the neural interface. But she was not just resisting anymore. She was actively attacking the system. Disconnect all subjects immediately, Kresh ordered his soldiers, but it was too late. The feedback had spread through the entire network. Every machine in the cave was sparking and smoking. Some of the smaller computers exploded in showers of sparks. June pulled out his rifle and fired at the nearest Vextar soldier. The plasma bolt caught the creature in its center mass, dropping it instantly. The other aliens turned toward him, but their formation was breaking apart as more equipment failed around them. Get to your mother, June told Mina. Help her disconnect from those cables. The girl ran toward Hana's platform while June provided covering fire. His rifle's energy cells would not last long against so many enemies. But maybe they did not need to last long. Mina reached her mother and began pulling at the cables connected to her head. Mama, we came to save you. Hana opened her eyes and smiled weakly. I knew someone would come. Help me sit up. As Mina freed her mother from the neural interface, the other human prisoners began to wake up. The system overload had broken their connections too. One by one, they sat up and looked around in confusion. Everyone off the platforms, June shouted while firing at another Vextar soldier. We need to get out of here, but Commander Kresh had recovered from his surprise. He barked orders in the clicking Vextar language, and his soldiers began to form a defensive line between the humans and the tunnel exit. You cannot escape, Kresh called out. This complex has only one way out. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Hana struggled to stand with Mina's help. Her legs were weak after being connected to the machines for so long, but her mind was still sharp. "June," she called out, "the crystalline formations connect throughout the entire mountain. If we can create a large enough feedback pulse, we can overload their whole system." "How do we do that?" Hana pointed to the largest crystal cluster near the cave entrance. "My research equipment is still here somewhere. If we can modify one of my electromagnetic sensors and attach it to that formation, the crystals will amplify the signal through the whole complex." June looked around desperately. The Vextar were advancing slowly, their weapons charged and ready. The other human prisoners were weak and confused. And somewhere in this cave full of alien technology, they needed to find Hana's research equipment. "There," one of the other prisoners said. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and intelligent eyes. "I am Dr. Kim. I was working with Dr. Hana before they captured me. Our equipment is in that storage area." He pointed to a section of the cave where human devices sat in a pile. The Vextar had collected everything from the research station but had not bothered to destroy it. "Can you make it work?" June asked Hana. "Give me 2 minutes and something to distract them." June checked his rifle's power level. "Half depleted. Not enough for a long fight, but maybe enough for a distraction." "Mina," he said, "remember what I told you about humans never giving up?" The girl nodded. "I need you to help your mother while I keep the bug things busy. Can you do that?" "Yes," Mina said with determination that reminded June of her mother. June stepped out from behind the computers and opened fire on the Vextar line. His shots forced them to take cover behind their own equipment. While they were distracted, Hana and Dr. Kim worked frantically to modify the electromagnetic sensor. "Almost ready," Hana called out, but June's rifle was nearly empty, and the Vextar were getting braver. They had figured out that he was running low on power. Soon they would rush his position. That was when the other prisoners joined the fight. They had no weapons and were still weak from their ordeal, but they had something else. They had anger. Months of being used as test subjects had filled them with rage at their captors. An elderly woman picked up a piece of broken equipment and threw it at the nearest Vextar soldier. A young man grabbed a metal rod and swung it like a club. Dr. Kim found a portable power unit and hurled it into the alien formation. The Vextar were trained to fight armed enemies, not desperate civilians throwing anything they could find. Their formation wavered as they tried to deal with attacks coming from all directions. "Ready," Hana announced. She held a device that looked like a small radio connected to several crystal fragments. "But someone needs to attach this directly to the main crystal formation." June looked at the huge crystal cluster near the cave entrance. It was right in the middle of the Vextar position. Getting to it would be suicide. "I can do it," Mina said quietly. "Absolutely not," June and Hana said at the same time. "I am small," the girl explained. "I can crawl through the equipment and cables. They might not see me until it is too late." June wanted to refuse, but Mina was right. She was the only one small enough to move unseen through the chaos of the cave, and they were running out of options. "If you do this," June told her, "you run straight back here afterward, no matter what happens to the rest of us." Mina took the device from her mother. "I will save everyone, just like you saved me." Before anyone could stop her, she dropped to her hands and knees and began crawling through the maze of cables and equipment toward the crystal formation. The fate of everyone in the cave now rested in the hands of an 8-year-old girl. Mina crawled through the maze of cables and broken equipment like a mouse moving through tall grass. The Vextar soldiers were focused on the fighting humans and did not notice the small girl creeping toward their position. June watched her progress while firing his last few shots. His rifle power was almost gone. The other prisoners continued throwing anything they could find, but the aliens were regaining control of the situation. Commander Kresh had moved to the center of his formation. "Enough of this," he roared. "Kill them all. We will extract what we need from their corpses." The Vextar soldiers raised their weapons. June knew his empty rifle could not stop them now. But he stepped forward anyway, placing himself between the aliens and the other humans. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" June called out to Kresh. "It is not our technology. It is not our strength. It is that we never abandon each other." Kresh laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your loyalty will die with you, human." But Mina had reached the crystal formation. The huge cluster of crystals rose from the floor like a frozen tree. She could hear the humming of energy flowing through the crystalline structure. Her mother's device felt heavy in her small hands. The girl looked back at her family. June stood ready to die protecting them. Her mother was trying to stand despite her weakness. The other prisoners waited for whatever would come next. Mina pressed the device against the largest crystal and activated it. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through the crystal formation like lightning. The amplified electromagnetic pulse spread through every crystal in the mountain. Every piece of Vextar technology connected to the network began to overload at once. Lights exploded throughout the cave. Computer screens shattered. The neural interface machines burst into flames. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning electronics. But the pulse did more than destroy equipment. The Vextar themselves were connected to their technology through implants in their shells. The feedback hit them like a physical blow. They screamed in pain and confusion as their enhanced senses overloaded. "Now we run," June shouted above the chaos. The humans moved toward the tunnel entrance, but Commander Kresh, despite his obvious pain, blocked their path. His shell was cracked and smoking, but he still held his weapon. "You have destroyed everything," he snarled at them. "Our research, our hope, our future. You should have asked for help instead of trying to steal from us," Hana said as she limped toward the exit. Kresh aimed his weapon at her. "Then you can die knowing you doomed an entire species." June threw himself between Kresh and Hana, just as the alien fired. The energy bolt caught him in the chest, spinning him around and sending him crashing into the cave wall. "June!" Mina screamed. The warrior tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. Blood ran from the wound in his chest. His vision blurred as shock set in. "Get everyone out of here," he told Hana weakly. "We are not leaving you," Mina said firmly. She ran to his side and put her small hands on his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Kresh raised his weapon again, but Dr. Kim hit him with a piece of metal debris. The alien commander stumbled but did not fall. "The tunnel is collapsing," one of the other prisoners called out. The electromagnetic pulse had destabilized the cave structure. Rocks were falling from the ceiling. Hana looked between the tunnel exit and June. She had to choose between saving the group and trying to help the wounded warrior. Mina made the choice for her. "He came for us, Mama. We do not leave family." The 8-year-old girl wrapped her arms around June and refused to let go. "You promised to save Mama. I promise to save you." Despite his pain, June smiled at the brave little girl. Her determination reminded him why humans had survived on dozens of hostile worlds across the galaxy. It was not because they were the strongest or the smartest. It was because they never gave up on each other. "Help me get him up," Hana told Dr. Kim. Together they lifted June to his feet. Commander Kresh tried to follow them, but more ceiling rocks fell around him. The cave was coming apart. His own base was collapsing on top of him. The humans stumbled through the tunnel as the mountain shook around them. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the Vextar complex destroying itself. The crystal formations continued to overload, spreading the electromagnetic pulse deeper into the cave system. June leaned heavily on Dr. Kim and Hana. Each step sent pain through his chest, but he kept moving. The other prisoners helped each other through the narrow tunnel. Mina stayed close to June, holding his hand and talking to him to keep him conscious. "Tell me about Earth," she said. "What was it like in the big cities?" June forced himself to focus on her voice. "Crowded, noisy, but the sunsets were beautiful from the tall buildings." They reached the small cave entrance where they had entered the mountain. Outside, the night sky was clear and full of stars. Fresh air had never smelled so good, but they were not safe yet. The Vextar complex was still active, and there might be guards outside. June tried to scan the area with his thermal scope, but his hands were shaking too much to hold it steady. "Let me," Hana said. She took the scope and looked out over the valley. "I see movement. Lots of movement. But the heat signatures look wrong for Vextar." She adjusted the focus and gasped. "Those are human vehicles. Colonial defense units." In the distance, armored transports were moving up the mountain roads. Rescue vehicles with medical crews followed behind them. Somehow the colonial forces had found them. "How did they know we were here?" Dr. Kim asked. Mina grinned, despite their desperate situation. "I left markers on the trail when we climbed up here. Mama taught me always to leave a path for people to follow." June laughed, then winced as the movement hurt his chest. "Smart girl. Your mother raised you well." As the rescue vehicles got closer, June allowed himself to hope that they might all survive this. But he also knew that everything had changed. The Vextar were not simple predators anymore. They were a desperate species fighting for survival. And now they knew that humans had something they desperately needed. The war for New Terra was just beginning. The colonial defense vehicles reached the cave entrance just as the mountain began to shake violently. Deep inside the peak, explosions echoed through the tunnels as the Vextar complex continued to destroy itself. Medical Officer Rin jumped out of the first transport before it fully stopped. She ran toward the group of humans emerging from the cave. Her scanner immediately focused on June, who was barely standing despite the support of Dr. Kim and Hana. Critical chest wound, Rin announced as she examined him quickly. We need to get him to the medical transport now. As the medics worked on June, Colonial Administrator Tai approached Hana. He looked shocked to see so many prisoners alive. Dr. Hana, we thought you were all dead. How did you survive in there? Hana looked back at the cave entrance where smoke was still pouring out. We learned something important about the Vextar. And about ourselves. What do you mean? They are not just predators anymore. They have become scientists and researchers. Their homeworlds are dying, and they have been studying us to find out why humans can adapt to hostile environments. Tay frowned. That is impossible. Our intelligence reports say the Vextar are simple hunters. Your intelligence reports are wrong, Dr. Kim said as he joined the conversation. I saw their technology. It is more advanced than anything we have in the colony. Mina sat beside June as the medics prepared him for transport. Despite the oxygen mask over his face, he was conscious and alert. Are you going to be okay? She asked quietly. June nodded weakly. Thanks to you. You saved all of us in there. We saved each other, Mina corrected him. That is what families do. The warrior smiled at her wisdom. This 8-year-old girl understood something that the Vextar scientists had missed completely. Human strength did not come from individual abilities. It came from their connections to each other. As the medical transport prepared to leave, another explosion rocked the mountain. This one was much larger than the others. The entire peak seemed to shudder and crack. The whole complex is collapsing, Hana observed. The crystal formations must be creating a chain reaction throughout the mountain. But something else was happening too. From deep inside the mountain, a new sound emerged. Not the clicking language of the Vextar, but something that sounded almost like music. What is that? Tay asked. Before anyone could answer, 3 Vextar emerged from a different cave entrance. But these creatures were different from the soldiers they had fought. These aliens moved slowly and carried no weapons. Their shells were decorated with the same symbols that had been on Commander Kresh, but arranged in different patterns. The lead Vextar approached the group of humans. When it spoke, its voice was sad but clear. I am High Researcher Vestar. I must speak with the humans who destroyed our facility. Tay stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. Stay back. We will not let you take any more prisoners. We do not wish to take prisoners, Vestar replied. We wish to understand what we learned from them. Hana struggled to her feet despite her weakness. What did you learn? That we were wrong about everything. The alien's voice carried what sounded like genuine regret. We thought human adaptability came from your individual minds. We tried to copy your thoughts and memories, but the more we studied you, the more confused we became. Confused about what? June asked from his stretcher. About why you continued to resist even when resistance meant death. Why you protected each other even when it put you in greater danger. Why you refused to give us information that could have saved your own lives. Vestar gestured toward Mina. This small female child risked everything to save adults she barely knew. Dr. Hana sabotaged our research knowing it would mean torture and death. You, Warrior June, threw yourself in front of a weapon to protect others. That is what humans do, Mina said simply. Yes, Vestar agreed. That is what humans do, and that is what we could never replicate in our laboratories. The alien researcher looked up at the collapsing mountain. Commander Kresh believed we could steal your adaptability and use it to save our worlds. But adaptability without compassion is just survival, and survival without purpose is meaningless. What will you do now? Hana asked. We will return to our dying worlds and tell our people what we have learned, that the strength humans possess cannot be taken by force. It can only be earned through the bonds you create with others. Tay stepped closer. Are you saying the Vextar will stop attacking human settlements? The attacks will stop. But High Command may not listen to our report. There are others like Commander Kresh who believe strength can only be taken, never shared. Then we will be ready for them, June said from his stretcher. Vestar looked at the wounded warrior with what might have been respect. I believe you will be. We studied your histories during our research. Humans have faced extinction many times. Each time you survived not because you were the strongest, but because you refused to let each other face the darkness alone. The alien turned to leave, then stopped. Dr. Hana, your research on the crystal formations has given us new hope. If our species can learn to work together the way humans do, we might find other ways to save our worlds. As the three Vextar walked away into the night, communications specialist Wu arrived with news from the other colonies. Sir, we are receiving reports from all over New Terra. The electromagnetic pulse spread through the entire continental crystal network. Every Vextar facility on the planet has been destroyed or abandoned. Tay looked amazed. All of them?
How is that possible?
Hana smiled weakly. I had 6 months to study those crystal formations. I knew they were all connected underground. When Mina activated the device, it created a feedback loop that reached every Vextar installation on the continent. One little girl saved the whole planet? Wu asked in disbelief. One little girl and everyone who refused to give up on her, June corrected. 3 months later, June had recovered from his wounds and returned to duty. But his new assignment was different. Instead of patrolling alone, he worked with a team that included Hana as scientific advisor and Mina as their expert on Vextar technology and behavior. The girl had insisted on helping. She said that someone needed to make sure the adults remembered what they had learned in the caves. On their first mission together, they received a signal from space. A Vextar ship was approaching New Terra, but it was not attacking. It was requesting permission to land and negotiate. They want to talk instead of fight, Mina observed. That is progress. What do you think they want? June asked Hana. Help, she replied. Real help this time, not stolen technology. As they prepared to meet the alien delegation, Mina took June's hand. Do you think we can trust them? June looked down at the brave little girl who had saved them all. I think we can trust ourselves to do what is right. And maybe that is enough. The story of what happened in the caves had spread throughout the human colonies. It reminded everyone of something important. Humans were not conquerors or victims. They were survivors who became stronger when they stood together. And sometimes that strength was enough to change the course of entire civilizations. The end.